Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The allotted hour has arrived, as has Gordon Hughes. We can now begin the meeting. Well, we were sitting and contemplating because there were still 2 minutes to go, and it would be unfair to start, before 9:30 if Gordon wasn't in. Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, I think we have a full house this morning. We have no apologies. No. Okay. Do we have any declarations of interest? Councillor Cawley?
I wasn't sure that was on. A declaration of a non-financial interest, and it's more for information that I am employed with Care Scotland.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, at any time, if an item arises and people realise they may well have a declaration of interest, it can be raised at any point throughout the meeting. Move to item of the executive held on the 13th of February. First of all, for accuracy. Agreed. Okay. Any particular matters of interest that aren't covered elsewhere? No. Okay, item 4, the rolling action log. Mrs Baker, do you want to give, or perhaps Councillor Alexander, we want to give an update with regard to the outcome of the meeting related to police and marches?
Yes, thanks, Convener. I attended the meeting of the Forum for Police Conveners at COSLA 2 weeks ago, and a report was received from the Police Scotland representatives who were present there with regards to the issue of the marches and walks and demonstrations. The issue of the temporary transport orders was discussed, and the police have agreed to go back to the status quo, of what was the status quo, until this issue is fully resolved, which is good news, and obviously will help the authority with regards to this aspect of policing during the summer, when of course the streets become a lot busier with various marches and walks and whatnot. So that's good news in that sense, Convener. But obviously the issue is still on the table. It's still to be fully addressed.
Okay, thank you. Do you want to add anything?
No, it's just to say the letter specifically says that divisional commanders have been instructed to revert to the pre-existing arrangements, i.e. those which were in place prior to 19th October 2017 until further notice. So there may be some need to clarify what that exactly is, but as you say, there's basically a hold being put on the specific changes that were being proposed.
Okay, I think that's provided some clarity.
Yeah, just on that, if I could seek some clarity on it. It's from our own authority. We took the position, I'm sure, that we weren't going to charge anybody until the thing became crystal clear. So I take it that's what's happened. We haven't made any charges the last administration.
We haven't made any charges for applications for TCROs for these circumstances, and given the recent letter that we've received from Police Scotland, we'll just continue with this until matters are resolved. It's operating in satisfactory fashion at the moment.
Well, it's a good outcome for everybody concerned. The part for the police just shows the shopaholic state that they're in, but it's a result for the galleries and people running about here. I appreciate that.
Okay, thank you. We were on to agenda item 5, the subcommittee from 28th February. There was no division in relation to any of those items. Councillor Nimmo?
Just a question, Convener, in relation to the drug and alcohol policy. Nowadays, a lot of organisations have random testing, and I'm just wondering if we do the same thing, and if not, why not?
Okay, Stuart?
Just to confirm, we don't do that. We're not aware of any council in Scotland that does that.
Okay. We have to agree the 3 policies, the vibration at work, drug evaluation policy, procedure and drug and alcohol policy. Agreed. Thank you. Item 6 is the provision of house. Stuart, you going to take us through?
Yeah. Thanks, Convener. This report provides members with an update on the provision of accommodation options and support for care leavers, and updates members on the development of a local protocol for dealing with these matters. The report before you this morning takes forward one of the recommendations arising from the scrutiny panel into the review of outcomes for looked after children, and the text in italics in paragraph 3.1 provides details of the specific recommendation arising from that scrutiny panel. A report was submitted to the Executive on 21st of March last year, and this report provides an update on progress to date. National research shows that the outcome for care leavers tends to be poorer than their peers in terms of health and well-being, stable housing and or secure or a secure base, education, training and work opportunities. Locally, these outcomes are compounded by a lack of suitable, flexible housing and support options. There is a requirement now for local authorities to establish a joint housing and social work protocol to ensure the best outcomes for care leavers. So locally, between ourselves and Children's Services, we have agreed a protocol to support the development of housing and support options for care leavers to ensure early identification and interventions wherever that is possible. The principles underlining the protocol are those of corporate parenting responsibilities, and the principles of the protocol are contained in sections 4.1.2 and 4.1.3 of the report. The protocol has been agreed by the Champions Board Participation Group. Our two services are currently developing a flexible range of housing options that will give care leavers a choice of accommodation and support, and will also assist the Council in progressing our closer to home strategy. The model that we're looking at is based on Barnado's Care Leavers Accommodation and Support Framework, and it describes the carer's journey to independence in 5 stages. And those 5 stages are set out in section 4.2.2 of our report. We're currently looking at 2 possible models for how we take forward this flexible accommodation and support. And these are set out in the 2 bullet points of 4.2.4. So the first of those is a 3-bedded first stage independent resource, which should provide high level of support as an alternative for young people who might otherwise opt for continuing care. And the second option is a multi-bedded second stage resource, providing a bit more independence, either on a single or double occupancy accommodation basis with less intensive support for young people. And we are currently working on identifying suitable locations for both of these. It's anticipated that development of this strategy will bring financial benefits and efficiencies to what currently is in place. The recommendations, Convener, are set out in section 2 of the report, and Sarah and I would be happy to answer any questions that members have.
Thank you, Stuart. This was one of the high-level asks of the scrutiny panel when we did the review of looked after children, and it came directly from the experience of speaking with the young people themselves. So this has been very much driven by them, and I think that it's been very positive, and it's moving us more and more towards a co-production model where the service users are actually demanding and dictating how services are developed. I think the protocol is very clear and concise. It's flexible to meet the varying needs because of the particular client group involved. The language is easy to understand and it's meaningful. And I would like to see more of protocols like this. If nothing else, it's easier for members to understand, if nothing else. I'm happy to move the recommendations as in section 2, that we move this forward and continue to have the ongoing dialogue with the Champions Board and the young people in taking this into something that is a reality for them. Councillor Cawley?
Yes, in seconding that, I welcome this report. As it outlines and as Stuart said, we know that care leavers' outcomes tend to be poorer, and stable housing is one of the areas where poorer outcomes occur. Excuse me, bit of a throat today. A stable home helps young people build a base and foundations for other areas of their life, including education and work, and to build roots within communities and to access to services. This protocol between housing and social work services, building on the right information and support for care leavers alongside developing a range of flexible housing options, including appropriate supported accommodation, will help build independence and confidence, and will help offer care leavers a more holistic provision. In echoing what you said, I particularly welcome that these options are being developed in partnership with care experienced young people from our Champions Board, and they are the real experts, and I want to take that opportunity to thank them for that.
Thank you. Any questions? Happy to give a report? Thank you. Okay, item 7. Sarah, are you going to take that one?
Thank you, Convener. This report updates the Executive on the implementation of the Council's corporate parenting duties and specifically progress with developing a family firm approach. In 2016, a scrutiny panel was undertaken in relation to the needs of looked after children. The following year, the Executive considered a report which informed members that a corporate parenting steering group had been established within the new structure of the Community Planning Partnership, and that this group would take forward the development of a family firm model within Falkirk. The steering group commenced in 2017 and oversees the 3 priority areas for corporate parenting as identified within the Integrated Children's Services Plan. These are awareness raising of corporate parenting across Council and partners, development of a family firm approach within the Council, and establishment of a Champions Board to allow local care experienced young people to influence how services and care are provided. The recommendations of the Executive are laid out in section 2. Section 3 of the report outlines the high profile that corporate parenting has in Falkirk and states the importance of promoting and meeting the needs of those for whom the Council is a corporate parent. A definition of corporate parenting is provided at para 4.2, and the importance of listening to children and young people and being proactive to meet their needs are stated. The development, launch and first meeting of the Champions Board are outlined at 4.3. The Champions Board provides a forum and an approach which gives children and young people a voice and the ability to influence and challenge local policy and practice across the Community Planning Partnership. The Life Changes Trust, who fund this work, are really positive about Falkirk's partnership model and the added value that this brings. The Corporate Parenting Steering Group continues to develop the process for raising the awareness of corporate parenting, and the process that is being used to support this approach are set out at 4.4.1. A recommended approach to the family firm is contained in section 4.5 of the report, and there are a range of family firm models across the country, each of which provides different ways to promote and enhance opportunities for care experienced young people to develop employability skills and find training and employment within the council family. The Corporate Parenting Steering Group intend for Falkirk's young people to benefit from the experience of others, and from others that we know have been successful. It's training that has the greatest impact for young people, and that is most successful when there are specific supports in place, not only for the trainee but for the employers who are providing those opportunities. So, Children's Services are bringing MCR Pathways, which is an employability training programme which is focused on looked after children and has been really successful in Glasgow, to Falkirk. This will provide a critical early stage to assist looked after young people to develop core skills that are transferable to the world of work. The model identifies looked after young people early on in their secondary school career and provides them with a mentor. The voluntary organisation called Who Cares has developed a family firm toolkit, and this is being used to develop our own practice. The agreed principles are set out in section 4.5.6 of this report. Appendix 1 attached to the report depicts the family firm map, which will be further developed by the Champions Board Participation Group. Section 5 states the consultation methods which have been employed with young people and relevant groups. And the financial implications outlined in Section 6 bear specific reference to Life Changes Trust funding period and the need to ensure that the Champions Board and the participation groups can be sustained beyond the term. Resources are required to support the work and aims of the Corporate Parenting Steering Group and identify priorities. Beyond the Life Changes Trust funding, partnership resources support the work being undertaken. Legal implications are referenced at para 6.3. Implementation of the Council's corporate parenting duties is a legal requirement and subject to reporting to the Scottish Government, and the first report is due in April 2018. The report concludes at Section 7 with a statement regarding the aim to improve outcomes for care experienced young people, which remains significantly poorer for them than their non-looked after peers. Just referring back to the recommendations set out in Section 2, and happy to take any questions that anybody might have.
Thank you, Sarah. Again, this was something that came out of the work undertaken around the scrutiny of looked after children, and it was something that was quite clearly identified as giving them life opportunities. But the work that has gone on is there to make sure that this is sustainable. And what has been highlighted that often the barrier to our looked after children actually getting into sustainable employment starts well before they actually go into employment, and we need to get them ready and in a position to be able to do that and do that successfully. And a lot of the work around the MCR pathways is doing that, so that they are in the best place to actually take up training and then move forward to the employment market. This is also a very good and stark reminder of all of our responsibilities as corporate parents, that while they may not live in our individual houses, that we are responsible for them across the board. And we have a shared responsibility along with our community planning partners. So it's important that we look to include them in all of this, and that way we can truly affect a more holistic and better outcomes for our young people. And I hope that this will be something that members will embrace and hopefully work with the Council and our partners to develop further, giving those young people the best possible start that they obviously haven't had in the beginning. I'm happy to move the recommendation as in Section 2. Councillor Crawley.
I obviously want to second the recommendations, but also want to see how well this fits in, and that we're having the two reports together about how we're moving forward with our corporate parenting responsibilities, which we all take very seriously, but also how we try to make a difference in different parts of young people's lives, and obviously those, as the council leader mentioned, how we take forward those opportunities for young people to be able to access training and work and have mentoring. I think mentoring is a very important part of that. And I think, again, I want to put on record our thanks to the young people on the Champions Board, because I think their knowledge and expertise is really helping to inform the development of the policies and work as we take it forward.
Yeah, just to highlight to members that some of this work has gone on previously. It's been a more informal basis. Now it's bringing it more into a formalised process, and hopefully that will enable more young people to access the support that they need, and again be able to get the better outcomes. Any questions or comments? No? Okay, we're happy to approve the report. Thank you. Of the Care Scotland Act. Sarah again.
Thank you, Convener. Me again. The purpose of this report is to advise the Executive of the implications of the Carer Scotland Act 2016 and seeks approval for proposed implementation in children's services. While the Integration Joint Board lead on the implementation of the Act, children's services are not devolved to the Integration Authority. As such, it is necessary for the Executive to consider the implications and implementation plan for children's services. The recommendations are set out at Section 2 of the report. Section 3 of this report provides an overview of the new duties on Scottish Government and local authorities which commence on the 1st of April 2018 when the Carers Act is implemented. Local authorities already have a duty to assess the needs of carers. The aim of the new legislation is to provide better and more consistent support to carers. It extends eligibility for a carer assessment and introduces the right to a separate carer support plan. Identified eligible needs must be met in line with self-directed support legislation. There is a specific duty in relation to young carers and their right to a young carer's statement. Young carers may care for a sibling or an adult and have other needs that require support. Paragraph 3.6 acknowledges that a young carer subgroup has been established to respond to these specific aspects. A multi-agency Falkirk Carers Implementation Group was established in spring 2017 to oversee preparation for implementation of the Act, and this group is led by the Falkirk Health and Social Care Partnership. Carers Act implementation funding provided by the Scottish Government is being utilised to establish 2 posts based within the Falkirk Carers Centre to coordinate initial inquiries and assessments, and these posts are initially for 2 years. Demographic information is detailed from paragraphs 3.7 to 3.10 of the report, and there are a range of key considerations highlighted in section 4. 4.1 references research which indicates that young carers tend to be a hidden group. Children will often not identify themselves as a carer, nor wish to acknowledge their caring role to school staff or to others. Consequently, it's crucial to raise awareness amongst those who work directly with children, as well as with children and their families. Training sessions are taking place over the course of this month, and material is being developed for schools, young people and staff. Eligibility criteria is not established in children's services in the same way that it is in adult services, and this is referenced at section 4.2. Eligibility criteria must be developed in line with the Act to determine which aspects of assessed support may be funded. To ensure that processes are as similar as possible for all carers, the Adult Social Work Services eligibility criteria has been adapted for children's services. And the children's eligibility criteria is based on the GIRFIC wellbeing indicators and aim to ensure that young carers are safe, active, healthy, achieving, nurtured, respected, responsible and included. The draft criteria is attached at Appendix 1. Funded care will be provided to those assessed as meeting critical or substantial levels of need. Where lower levels of need exist, their needs will be met by accessing universal or early intervention services such as those provided by the Carers Centre. Young carers have provided their views on the format of the Young Carers Statement. The current Child's Plan framework, which is used across all relevant agencies in the voluntary sector, is suitable for assessing the needs of young carers and developing a Young Carers Statement. Some minor adjustment has been required. Section 4.4 relates to governance and clarifies that due to children's services not being in scope for the Integration Joint Board, implementation plans required to be agreed at both the Integration Joint Board for adults and the Executive for children. There are statutory requirements relating to consultation, and these are outlined at Section 5. The Carers Centre has assisted with young carer consultation, and their views are informing the amendments to the current paperwork and eligibility criteria. Section 6 of the report outlines the financial implications relating to the implementation of the Carers Act. The lack of absolute certainty on the likely level of demand for assessment and support means that the financial implications will remain uncertain until after the Act has been in place for at least a year, but impact will be carefully monitored. Falkirk's share of funding and its intended use is laid out at 6.1. The funding will be provided to the Council for transfer to the Integration Joint Board. The Scottish Government has indicated where children's services are not part of the integration scheme, the children's portion of this funding should be deducted prior to transfer. 6.3 of the report confirms there are no legal implications in relation to the recommendations of this report, as the implementation proposals which are recommended will ensure that we meet our new duties. The report concludes at section 7 and states that review and adjustment of the approach in light of actual experience is an important aspect of the implementation plan. And please note that sample case studies are attached at Appendix 2, and I refer back to recommendations in section 2, and we're happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Sarah. You've been working very well over the 3 reports, and that is very, very comprehensive. I just think I would want to put on record, and I know that everybody will support this, the acknowledgement of the work and the commitment of all our carers to, whether it be informally or on a more formal basis, and to acknowledge that we have a lot of young carers within our communities, and as Sarah had said, many of whom that we may never ever realise or know, who are not in a position or don't want to be in a position to come forward and identify themselves. However, there has to be a way of being vigilant to ensure that their life opportunities aren't overly compromised by taking on that particular role, and doing that in a sensitive way that enables them to fulfil whatever they have as ambitions and aspirations. So I think that we need to acknowledge that in particular, if those carers did not carry out those particular caring roles, those whom they care for's lives would not be as enriched as they are, and it's right and proper that we do support them. Governments recognise that it needs to be done in a more formal way, and in doing that they have provided additional resources to enable us to do that. I'm happy to approve the recommendations as in section 2, and would look forward to us getting a further update as we go forward on how the eligibility criteria, particularly related to children, is being effective. Because my anxiety, which I've already indicated, is that the transferable from adult to children isn't as clear, and that the outcomes or the interventions that may be used to support the children could be very different. And as long as we have that flexibility to look at how we deliver that, I'm content, but I would welcome the opportunity to see how that's working in practice. Councillor Colley.
Me again. I obviously want to second the recommendations. I think it's probably important to put on record that actually Children's Services is already doing a lot of this work already. It's already supporting young carers. This Act, which we had a technical amendment at full council, simply formalises some rights to support, but the principle of supporting young carers has certainly been within Children's Services already. I think it is important that we do get it right for young carers. It's well evidenced that there can be much poorer outcomes in relation to education and life chances for young carers. And I welcome that it's going to fit in with GURFEP principles, that it will work in tandem with some of the work we're doing in relation to the children's plans. And I think probably in reflecting my earlier comments, I think we also want to put on record the thanks to the young carers who've been involved in engagement and consultation about what they want and what matters to them, and I think it's very important to say that.
Thank you. Okay. Any other members happy to? Sorry, Councillor Alexander.
Just to say, it's good to see the link between the three reports, and it shows some joined up thinking. And congratulations to those, and thanks to those who are involved in producing these reports, including obviously my colleague, Councillor Colley.
Okay, thank you.
I would agree with that, but just to make the point that it's been ongoing for quite some time since the last administration. Groundwork being done.
Yes, and as I say, a lot of it has come from the scrutiny panel that sat particularly around looked after children, and it's been brought into a more formal setting. So I think there's a bit of clarity around where we're going in that particular direction. Okay, happy to agree the report. Item 9, Stuart.
Thanks, Convener. This report provides the next quarterly update report to members on the Council of the Future Change programme. We start with an update on the governance arrangements for the programme, and in section 4.2 of the report we provide details of the presentations that the board has received from project managers since the last update in December. So there are 6 presentations that the board has received. These are listed in the bullet points set out in section 4.2. We then move on to employee engagement, and we list a number of employee engagement events that have been held again since December, and that continues the dialogue that we've been having with employees, with leaders, with trade unions since the start of the Council of the Future project. One of the key outcomes of the sessions has been the preparation of an action plan in response to the key issues arising from the employee survey. The action plan is now being produced and shared across all services. 4 key areas arising from the engagement survey, which have been included in the action plan. These are in relation to communication, teamwork, leadership and management, learning, development, feedback and performance. My report then goes on to scan what we think is likely to happen over the next quarter. And we note in section 4.10 of the report 3 new projects which are currently being scoped out to be included in the Council of Future programme. One in relation to housing and what our housing of tomorrow will look like. One in relation to early years expansion, and the third in relation to virtual learning in schools. Number of milestones which are coming up over the next quarter, which we'll be reporting on the next time we report. The first is in relation to the completion of the business support project, which is due to deliver £500,000 worth of savings by the end of this month. We go on to talk about the implementation in April of our Next Generation Contact Centre, which will provide more flexibility and accessibility for our customers to contact the Council and provide enhanced 24/7 emergency contact arrangements. We will be continuing our building maintenance review. More employees will be working from home, taking their vehicles home with them, allowing them to start straight from work rather than go through a depot using increased technology. We've had a piece of work undertaken in the last 2 or 3 weeks in relation to an assessment of the Council's digital maturity. We expect that to report back in the next month or so, and that will give us an assessment of where we are, but where we need to get to in terms of the systems that we have. We have 3 projects that are closely linked together, and it's been smarter in how we do our business, and the 3 projects are around Fit for the Future, Smart Working, Smart Travel, the telephony contract, and a 4th one in relation to advice hubs, and there's more on the advice hubs later on the agenda. If we're going to work smart, we need to have the technology and the transport solutions in place to allow that to work effectively. There's a summary statement attached as Appendix 1 to the report, which provides a position statement at the end of February in relation to our Council of the Future projects. This is a replica of the statements that are considered by the Council of the Future Board. Recommendations convener are set out in section 2 of the report. Happy to answer questions that members have.
Thank you, Stuart. I think we've just approved the statement from the Accounts Commission, and this is an area that they were obviously looking very closely at, and the Council was criticised for the pace of change in our transformation agenda. I think that there's an acknowledgement that that's now moved on significantly through the Council of the Future, and we need to keep that momentum or maintain that momentum as we go forward. We're starting to see some of the projects now be delivered within the agenda, and they will take us into new ways of working that will hopefully be far more efficient than we have been and still deliver a quality service to our citizens within the Falkirk area. It's going to obviously be a feature of our medium-term financial planning, because this is going to be one of the vehicles for delivering those savings as we go forward. But I think we've been able to demonstrate we've been able to deliver savings while maintaining services, and that will be something that will continue as we go through the Council of the Future programme for the next year as well. I appreciate the appendix may be challenging for people to read, and it's something we'll look to try and address as we move forward, because there's a lot of information within that, and actually being able to actually digest some of that, I appreciate that it might be a challenge for members, but it is there, and I'm sure if you've got the opportunity to maybe electronically to expand it, but we can look at that for the future. I'm happy to approve the recommendations as in section 2, noting the progress of the future programme and change, and this is a quarterly update, and obviously it will continue to be a quarterly update to members. Councillor?
And obviously I'd like to second that recommendation, and it takes me back to when I was sitting with Councillor Goldie and Councillor Patrick in front of the Audit Committee when we spoke about how we just came through the initial part, and this is the implementation coming through, and there's a good amount of implementation. As you say, there is a lot of detail in there, and it's good to see it happening, what we were actually talking about.
Okay, thank you. Any other? Councillor Nimmo?
Thanks, Convener. Just in relation to page 125, there's a number of projects here supposed to be delivered by the end of June this year, and just in relation to the early years expansion, there's only the one small paragraph here. There's nothing regarding any financial implications for the Council, or whether indeed the Scottish Government is going to totally fund this. I would actually have expected a full report just on this one item, especially in the lead up to the end of June.
My understanding, Convener, is that we've now made a second submission to Scottish Government as required. All councils were asked to put in more information and to refine their plans. We haven't yet had feedback on that, but we're expecting it fairly soon. And as soon as we do have anything to feedback, we'll bring it back to elected members.
Hoping that the distribution will be done in time for our April meeting. We should be able to know both revenue and capital at that point.
I'm just a bit disappointed, Convener, that there's not any information relating to that in the report. It would have been helpful.
There is information that will come through the Education Executive that will be far more detailed. This is only a small part of the early years expansion. It's a much wider project within our education services.
Okay, on procuring for the future on 4.2, I take it that's buildings we're talking about, Stuart?
No, that could be buildings or it could be services.
It's just because we're still awaiting the decision of the administration and how they intend to go with this particular building. Because when we talk about efficiencies and we talk about things like that, this building certainly, as has been proved over the years, isn't efficient in terms of meeting the energy targets, things like that. So it's nearly a year into the game now, what's happening with the building.
Mrs Geisler, do you want to give an update on where things are with the...
Yes, obviously the replacement HQ is part of the strategic property review. There's work ongoing in relation to option appraisals in respect of this, the new HQ, and we hope to report back to members either in April or May executive.
Okay. Any other questions for Stuart? Okay. Thank you. Happy to approve the report. Okay, item the update on the West and Central Advice Hubs. Stuart, you taking that one?
Yep, thanks, Convener. This is the latest in a series of reports considered by the Executive on the rollout of advice hubs. Section 3 of the report provides information for members on the previous reports that you've had on this matter. Turning firstly to the West Hub, which will be based at Karen Bank, it's hoped that this will be operational by August of this year. We are currently in discussions with the other users of the building to look at repurposing the building to find the best fit for the number of users, different users, who are in that building. Looking at the central hub, you'll recall that the last report that you considered, we said we would undertake some options appraisals in relation to suitable accommodation in and around the town centre. We undertook two option appraisals, one at a property in Newmarket Street, one at a property in High Street. Neither were considered to be suitable, partly because they were leased, so the council would be faced with dilapidations liability at the end of the lease. Section 4.4 of the report goes on to talk about the additional feasibility which has been undertaken in conjunction with the Community Trust to determine the suitability of Falkirk Library as a site for a co-located hub and library, and sections 4.5 and 4.6 of the report provide some information on the benefits that we think that co-location could provide. 4.7 of the report provides some information in terms of some issues that 4.7 of the report sets out the time frame that would need to be delivered to ensure that the new co-located library and hub was up and running in time for us to be able to vacate Calendar Square. Its lease is due to run out in January of next year, so members will see from the timetable that's set out in 4.7 that that timetable is challenging. 4.9 of the report talks about some of the work that still needs to be done to take forward the project, involving consultation with staff, consultation with existing users of the library, and further discussions around the issues of rates relief of the library at Hope Street. A detailed brief and design specifications currently being prepared for the combined library and hub facility, and that will be getting discussed between ourselves and colleagues at the Trust. Funding for both hubs is contained on the new capital programme, just approved by members last week. Recommendations, convener, are set out in section 2 of the report.
Thank you, Stuart. Firstly, looking at co-location within buildings is one of the key principles within our strategic property review, and looking for relevant partners to look to co-locate what was another aspect, and Karen Bank is going to be hopefully one of the ones where we're going to look at eventually co-location with not just other kinds of services, but with our partners in health. In relation to the opportunity for a central advice hub, we had concerns, or we had proposals from the Trust who recommended the closure of 2 libraries. We quite clearly said that we didn't want to close any libraries, so this is an opportunity to look at some opportunities for efficiency savings and actually create an enhanced service. And that would not be to any detriment or no significant change to the current library users. But I think we're on potential for an exciting opportunity for a very holistic service within our town centre area in doing this. There's obviously discussions still had to be had and negotiations with our colleagues in the trusts around how the operating model will work. I don't see that as being a barrier. I think that's an opportunity, and I'm pleased that the trust have embraced this and are willing to work with us to look at an enhanced facility within the Falkirk area. So I'm happy to approve the recommendations as at section 2, noting the progress on the advice hub at Canbank House, notes the progress in the feasibilities for the central hub, and request that the Community Trust Board consider the repurposing of Hope Street to allow the community hub to be delivered alongside.
Convener, I will second.
Thank you. Councillor Hughes, any questions or comments?
I agree that the first priority concerning Falkirk Library is that it's kept open. So anything that assists in that or removes any type of threat towards the removal of the library service where it is at the minute just wouldn't be acceptable. We knew, and we spoke about it when this was all suggested, that the building at Newmarket Street just was a non-runner. I mean, anybody that goes into that building knows that was never going to be the case. The disappointing thing, of course, about this is that for £1 million, £1.2 million, you could have had a 400-place car park and a building at the far end of the town, which was in the town centre. And if we'd been really on our tiptoes, we could have had that, and that would have brought business back into the town. Now, the other thing about the library is, if we're all being honest, as I'm sure we are, isn't it a good location in relation to people coming towards that library? It's a very difficult road crossing, and car parking there is difficult as well. No matter how you get to the library, you've got to cross a busy road. So that's a concern for us. Also a wee bit concerned about, well, no concern, we'll see the prices when they come in. But for being honest, as I say, isn't it the ideal site for the central hub? It's never an accommodation like that is never right. But as I say, if it protects the library service itself, and if it's all we can get in the town centre, well, fine. If you've just got to go with what you've got, but you did miss an opportunity big time with the Calendar Square shopping centre.
Councillor Alexander.
Yes, Convener. My understanding is that the shopping centre went on public auction. So if it was a guaranteed price of 1.2 million, then fine, there's an opportunity there, perhaps. But to go into an auction, the local authority, without the ability to get the district valuer, for example, involved in the process, would have been irresponsible. We're also criticised for purchasing, even though it saved a considerable amount of money, including this last week's budget, with regards to the Abbotsford House. But it was an entirely different situation where it wasn't open to open bidding. So there seems to be an inconsistency in that approach. We're criticising one and criticising the other for taking the different views. I think that the issue of the libraries' closures, well, I think we're all agreed that the libraries stay open. I mean, the libraries in Denny, Bonnybridge and the Bowman are relatively new libraries. And, why would we close libraries when we're in the process of renewing libraries? But what has been stated and what is quite clear is that the libraries must perform as many functions as is possible. And that was recognised when, for example, the issuing of bus passes was transferred from Abbotsford House to Falkirk Library. That was seen as something that was worthwhile, and it was seen as something that along the lines of progress. So I'm happy with the progress that has been made. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know how auctions work in terms of the bidding process, but I do know that in terms of an accountable organisation such as Falkirk Council, it would be very difficult to get involved in an auction per se. So I think at that point, convener, they haven't clarified that, and I'm happy to accept the details of the report.
Convener, could I just seek one point of clarification from Mrs Geisler? The price that's to be paid for Abbotsford House, has that money been paid yet? And what was the price? So the money's been paid.
The entry's been taken and the purchase price has been paid.
So how much was the purchase price?
I can't remember off the top of my head.
About £1 million?
It was less than £1 million, but not a great deal.
Come at 1.2 then, with the add-ons, etc.
There would be
it was less than that.
Stamp duty, land tax. I can get that information for you, but the purchase price was less than £1 million.
So it costs us £1 million this year. So. I recognise over the piece that will save money. As long as you're not going to repair anything, but we'll wait and see what happens there.
Convener, can I ask Mrs Geisler if she recalls the amount that was saved for this year's budget?
Half a million in the paperwork.
The rental for Abbotsford House was £200,000, and that was identified as part of the budget savings moving forward for a short period of time. And there was also the savings on the dilapidations as well. So
Thank you.
it was £200,000 a year plus the dilapidations.
Thank you for that.
And just to answer your question with regard to not being able to find somewhere else within the town centre, Calendar Square's lease and part of our strategic property review objective was to reduce the number of non-council properties which we were paying for, therefore reverting back to use of our own buildings as much as possible. Unfortunately, we don't have buildings that we own within the town centre that would be suitable.
Thank you. You've just stole what I was going to say.
Sorry.
It's good to see that we are investing in our own buildings. To start going into new buildings and paying excessive rents and buying stuff just really isn't practical in today's climate. I think we've all been through a very exhausting budget phase with the council where we've managed to cut stuff to the bone. And once you've cut to the bone in the future, the only thing left is amputation. But here we're able to invest in our own buildings and move things forward. I know some places are historically in more difficult places, but let's be honest. For instance, Falkirk Library has been there for a long time, and it is a much cherished and loved building within the town.
Councillor Garner.
Thank you, Convener. Just to say I'm very supportive of the fact that the West Hub is coming to Cairnbank and Denny. I think it's a really good location for it. I had one apprehension, which was the traffic congestion at Denny Cross, which I'm sure everybody knows about. But with the implementation of DEAR and the acceleration of DEAR, I'm more than happy to support where it is coming from now, and I think that takes away a lot of the issues I had with it. So, thank you.
Thank you for that very positive comment, Councillor Garner. Okay, happy to approve the report. Okay, item is the Grangemouth Investment Zone. Rona?
Yes, this report before members today reaches a significant stage in the development of the outline business case for the Falkirk Grangemouth Investment Zone. The background to this, members will recall, it was agreed to pursue the development of the project last year as a response to the City Region Growth Accelerator projects that were being pursued by other authorities, mostly in partnership. We say in the report that this is complementary to the TIF initiative, which is a very successful initiative and has allowed us to develop very strong links with both Scottish Government and Scottish Futures Trust in terms of delivering that project, and these are relationships that will stand us in good stead moving forward. In terms of the development process for the outline business case, Falkirk Economic Partnership was established and has been established for some years. Again, a very strong partnership involving the Council, Scottish Enterprise, SFT, who I've mentioned, but also Scottish Canals and the Commission consultants to undertake this work. The process, as described in paragraph 4.2, has involved reviews of the baseline situation within our area, what our emerging policies and initiatives are, both local and national, an extensive consultation exercise, and a collaborative development of what was 44 projects, now been shortlisted to 9. Some of these 44 have been combined to create the 9. The criteria for selection, there are 5 criteria for selection, and they're described in paragraph 4.3 of the report. They're clearly around economic growth across not only the council area but also throughout impact in Scotland as well. And unsurprisingly, these will also have aspects of connectivity and sustainability, together with a specific low-carbon economy aspect to them. One of the particular issues criteria I'd want to highlight on is that of community cohesion and inclusion. It's critically important that these benefits that this project will bring are enjoyed by all sectors of our community, and this is really embedded throughout the whole of the number of the projects. There are 3 themes in relation to developing the outline business case, and these are business, infrastructure and place. And there are 9 interlinked projects, and these are described in section 4 of the report. I won't go through all of these, but I think it's worth mentioning the Innovation District for Chemicals and Manufacturing Excellence. Clearly, the Grangemouth hub of chemical industry operators is a centre of excellence. It's recognised not only nationally but internationally as such, and it's building on the strength of the industry partners, building on the strength of our industry partners in that sector, which really underpins this element of our overall project. There are clear connections with energy, biosciences and logistics already in existence, which provide a firm foundation for taking matters forward. The opportunities there are around innovation, around research and development, using what we have as a specialist hub for chemical manufacturing moving forward. And this ties in very strongly with the UK's industrial strategy, particularly relating to the chemical sector. The other projects I'd want to touch on are the international tourism destination. This is the other aspect. The project's an interesting one because it's a very hard industrial commercial aspect to it that's rooted in Grangemouth, as I've described, and then we have our status as an emerging tourist destination. This is about, as members will know, it's about hosting longer stays for visitors and creating an event and activity programme to support that. So that will be around delivering infrastructure, delivering accommodation, but also activities to make sure people stay longer, with a specific link into our heritage and cultural assets that we already have, together with the newer aspects of our tourism offering. Linked in with that is the town centres. The town centres are critical to an area's economy, but they're also critical to an area's well-being. And so the town centres of Falkirk and Grangemouth and their improvements are going to be a key part of the overall project. The last aspect I would talk about that is linked, and that's about sustainable transport and travel. Connectivity is a key theme, as I've mentioned, and making sure that people can get to our area and get round about in our area is going to be a very important aspect as well. Inclusive growth I've touched on. This is going to be embedded throughout all of our projects, but it has a specific aspect that we're very keen to engage with communities on the delivery of that. This is about developing skills for our local people, employability, and engaging local communities with the overall project to allow them to assist us in its delivery. As I've said before, it's not a separate element of the project, but it's integral to all that we will do. This is about civic engagement and ownership as much as what the council is doing. And I think one of the things that we saw over the period of bad weather is just really how our communities can rise to the challenge and become engaged and take ownership for their own area. There's included in the outline business case, I have a draft copy of it here with me. It's a fairly hefty document, and that's without the appendices. There is an economic impact assessment showing how the projected interventions will assist in making the transformation that we're looking for. At the moment, we anticipate that the bid to Scottish and UK governments for the delivery of the investment zone will be in the region of £150 million. That's primarily for infrastructure investment to enable these developments to take place. Some will be delivered by the council, others will be delivered by partners or in partnership amongst and between them. The conclusions are in paragraph 7, convener. and just highlight how important a step this is in our journey in delivering the overall project. There will be an awful lot more work that will still require to be completed, with an extensive element of communication and engagement with communities, and a detailed examination of each of the proposals moving forward. So the recommendations contained in section 2 are to note the progress of the work that's been done to date, and agree that the outline business case, subject to the work I've just described, be forwarded to Scottish and UK governments to start the work of consideration and discussion with them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs Geisler. I think this is a significant juncture that we've reached with the Grangemouth Investment Zone, or our growth accelerator. We're still trying to come up with something that's a wee bit more catchy. Any suggestions on a postcard? There's been a heck of a lot of work has gone in by officers over the last 6-7 months to pull this together to get it to this point. The reindustrialisation of Grangemouth has been quite key over the last few years, and we are now getting more traction on that, and there's been a lot of interest expressed, particularly around our proposals and our thoughts about the investment zone. There's been a lot of attention already on the area, and any of the discussions, particularly in the public domain around city or region deals. Falkirk has continually been mentioned as one of the key areas. So I think we will be knocking at an open door. Not just with the Scottish Government, but considering that Grangemouth brings in 20% of the UK's GDP, Westminster are also going to see this as being an attractive option. For us locally, it's not just about Grangemouth, it's not just about Falkirk. The potential here is for the downstream benefits to be felt right across the council district and beyond. So there's something here for everybody throughout the district as regards to the economy. It's about creating jobs not just in the high value sector, it's about creating jobs across the sector, developing our area as a tourist destination. We're the third highest tourist destination in Scotland. We want to be able to build on that and make that far more sustainable for our economy. So I'm happy to approve the recommendations in section 2. It's an exciting opportunity for us to take our area forward and look to create some economic stability for the future.
Happy to second the recommendations contained within the report.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? I'm aware that there's to be an all-member briefing.
Yes.
Yeah.
The projects, as you can see, are quite complex, and rather than discuss them in detail here, we felt that it might be appropriate to offer a briefing for all members to participate, and then we can get some colleagues in to talk about the detail below these. Obviously, this is an outline business case, so this is at the very earliest stage of this, but I think that engagement with members will be critical for moving forward the project, so we're keen to do that.
Yeah, I fully support the report, and I would like to, in my previous life as an economic spokesperson, say that, and I assume it's the same team that's putting this together, they do a tremendous job, and there's no question about that. What is the UK government involvement, Mrs Geisler? Will that be mainly in the petrochemical side?
Yes, we're linking in as far as we can into the various funding streams and strategies. The primary UK strategy with which we're connecting is the industrial strategy, which, as you see in the report, was launched in November 2017, and particularly the chemicals sector part of that strategy. However, there are elements of UK government policy in relation to all of our projects which we'll be hoping to tap into. Generally speaking, these types of projects seek funding 50% from UK government, 50% from Scottish government, so clearly both governments will be interlinked in their discussions. So it's really a question of having further discussions with them and seeing where the funding will be available, but it will have to be agreed between both sets of government.
Because it is important to remember, even in the darkest days when we had the the doors locked down there, that the UK government were involved as well, as was John Swinney in the big meeting the day that we all went down to it. So it's a very exciting project. Grangemouth, there's no question about it, as we said at the time, it's a national, of national significance, and great to see the two governments going to be working together, or people for the two governments working together, along with ourselves.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, happy to approve.
Convener, obviously I've just taken on the role of Economic Development Portfolio Holder. One of the first things that I did though was contact the department to arrange for some briefings, and these are ongoing at the moment. It's very clear and it's very obvious that the city regions were very much in vogue, and we've muscled our way in with an alternative to that, and it's to the credit, and I echo Mr Goldie's comments, to the credit of the officers that were involved in that particular process. It's clear also that the COSLA have a major say in the determination of policy, and I can assure members that I'll be working with COSLA officials as well to ensure that this is delivered, and that we get maximum benefit for the people of Falkirk District.
Thank you for that. Okay, happy to approve the report. Okay, thank you. Item 12, Centre Regeneration Update Report. Mrs Geisler.
Yes, this is one of our regular updates in relation to the town centre. It's a key priority of our strategic community plan, and obviously our economic strategy as well. As we say in the report, the phase one works are nearing completion, and paragraph 3.2 identifies the progress that's been made to date, and also notes that a community event will be taking place to mark the conclusion of the works. Members will recall that we have previously endeavoured to market the phase 2 site without any great success previously, and the agreement at that time was that we would await the completion of phase 1 when there was more vitality and vibrancy in the town centre. I think that's certainly evidenced now, with a view to remarketing phase 2. There was community engagement events undertaken via Charette in relation to proposals for phase 3, the phase 3 site, and nothing has come forward from the outcome from the community, and so accordingly we're suggesting that we market both sites, phase 2 and phase 3 sites. The other part of the report deals with the Council's SPG in relation to provision of contributions for deer. Obviously that, as we've noted in the report, that was subject to decisions that members made at that time. We anticipated it being the 28th of February. Obviously the decisions were made on the 28th of February and the 6th of March, as it turned out. So that's largely been superseded now with the decision that members took for funding of deer at that meeting, so I won't go into that into any detail. As we've noted, there's been extensive consultation. The community has been very involved in this regeneration project and continues to be so, and the various implications are described at paragraph 6. The recommendations, Convener, are in section 2 of the report, subject to the alteration that I've mentioned in relation to contributions for deer. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mrs Geisler. I recently visited on a very snowy day, I will also add, Denny Town Centre, to see the progress and to look at a number of the aspects. I know that we are now waiting on a lot of the artists' work being put in place, and that's proving to be a little challenging. But we are confident, and we have expressed that there is a community event coming up, and we would like to see the conclusion of all of that in time for that community event to take place and bring the final sort of Denny Town Centre major works to that conclusion. Because I know that people have waited a long time, and I know the community have been very much involved in developing those particular aspects, and I think there's a little bit of frustration starting to build that we're not quite getting there. I'm sure Councillor Garner will have something to say on that. No. Or not? Okay. The two phases are the sites, two sites that are going to be marketed. They're going to be for retail, or
the two sites you can
next.
see on the attached recommendations to the report. So phase two has been identified as a retail development option, and phase 3 has just been marketed for a regeneration option. It's a very small site, and so I think the options may be quite limited on it, but we might get something interesting and exciting coming back. You never know.
Okay. Okay. So it's good that we're at this juncture now, and I have to say that despite it being a snowy day, Denny was looking very good when I was out there. And referring back to a previous item, Denny Library is also a shared space which works very effectively. So I think we are moving in the right direction. I'm happy to take the update report and hope that by the time we get the next one, we will have the work's all completed and things have moved forward. So I'm happy to approve the recommendations in section 2.
Happy to second, Convener.
Thank you. Any other comments? No?
Maybe we'll come in after I speak. Just to say that obviously I'm delighted that Denny Town Centre has proven to be the success we were sure it was. It was disappointing that we didn't get phase 2 away at that particular time, but I'm confident that it will go through and make it an even better town centre than it is at the moment. And all I can say is no work or no project ever undertaken by the council received as much criticism for one former member of the council. So I take it now that that's all gone west and that people are fully supportive of it. The community was always fully supportive of it, and I'm sure it's a success, and congratulations again. And if I could mention just Douglas Duff and Jackie MacArthur, who were mainly involved in that particular project, who did tremendous work, and they deserve that credit as well.
Thank you, Councillor Gona. Councillor Garner.
Thank you, Convener. I'll come in now a little. Yeah, Denny Town Centre has been a long-running saga now. It's obviously overrun by some 6 months now. I see that we're not even agreeing that phase 1 has been completed here. I've been working along with officers on site every week for the past 4 or 5 months to try and iron out some of the wee issues we have. I'm certainly being as positive as I can with the place, and I feel the town is getting increasingly frustrated in relation to the artists and the delays that have been put in place by them. But yes, we are getting where we should be. There's a couple of suggestions I've made in speaking with the town as well to some wee aspects that I think people are well aware of. We've even got the flagpole up now, which is taking a fair bit of weight off my shoulders. And so, yeah, we are moving in the right direction, and hopefully the official opening, which will be in our term, the official opening will take place sometime soon. I think the date's going to be in May, so I'm meeting with Jackie actually tomorrow or the day after just to talk about things with that. So, thank you very much.
It's just to try and get iron out the final problems. I know phase 2 and phase 3. Is there any movement on these? And what is the delay with the artwork? I would imagine that these people have been contracted under a timescale.
I know every delay with artwork if you want me to run through it.
I think we're dealing with artists, and artists being creative people are quite hard to pin down to specific timescales, but I stand to be corrected if that's not the full story.
Pretty much that. I think it is artists are artists, as people have been saying. There has been some sort of failed aspects to the artist designs as well. With the north staircase, they tried a couple of things there and it didn't quite work. So they're coming back with another idea now. One of the artists with the light things, he tried some sort of material which didn't quite work either. So he's having to go back and look at his designs. There was some delays. There weren't artists as well. Some delays with the manufacturers that the council had taken on board. but that seems to be coming together now, eventually. But it's been a lot of hard work by some of the officers on site, as I say, every week, and pushing the contractors and pushing the... Well, there were other things as well, companies folding and things like that, but didn't help during the time. But yes, we are getting there, and hopefully that we'll get there soon. Getting back, if I can just come in on that, then the slipping where I left. What I found strange was the length of time that I actually had to complete this contract. I don't know why I wasn't a member when it went in at first, and it's actually taken longer than the DEAR to get to where we were in September, which was meant to be the completion date, which is not now. So I think the comment with the slippage was a bit cheeky, really.
Okay, Councillor Alexander.
Convener, can I ask, it's accepted that the DEAR was very much part of the regeneration programme for Denny Town Centre. It was one of the essential requirements. Can I ask, when we market phases 2 and 3, if we'll be making it very clear that it's a different proposal that's before us now, different opportunity that's before us now as well, with regards to the decisions taken by the Council to fund the DEAR?
The issue over the marketing particulars would always have required to have contained information around DEAR in respect of the contribution, so obviously that's now cleared up. But we would also hope to include in the marketing particulars information as to when the road is likely to be in place, and that's a programme that we need to work through yet. So that will be part of the marketing element as well. Around how that will ease access in and out of the town centre.
That's an excellent reply, because it is important that we go over to prospective bidders that there is a commercial opportunity, a major commercial opportunity in Denny for the creation of jobs, for the creation of businesses, for the creation of services even, that has been opened up by the decision to fund DEAR, because very much that was part of the regeneration programme.
Indeed.
I'm sorry, can I just say one bit of clarification? No, just a bit of clarification on the DEAR. So someone who, when the council, we've paid our money, hopefully, towards the DEAR because we were a developer, is Mr Alexander alluding to the fact that if a developer goes in now, a major store goes in now, that they won't be paying anything towards DEAR? Because my understanding of the council meeting was that we would seek to reclaim the money for DEAR from developers.
Mrs Geisler.
If you recall, when we spoke about this before, when this site was marketed in the first instance, the bids that we received back for this was to the effect that they wouldn't pay. The bids were conditional on the council meeting the contributions for DEAR. Otherwise, the site was in the site's actually in a negative equity status. So at that time, members agreed that the council, as the landowner, would meet the contribution to be made rather than the developer. So this report initially sought to replicate that arrangement, but that's now been superseded to a certain degree by the decision that members made. So I would have been suggesting that the council meet the DEAR contribution as it has done for phase 1 in respect of phase 2. Otherwise, the site would not have been successfully marketed.
But it opens up the economic opportunities from those particular sites with the completion programme for the road now, and that makes it far more attractive to developers wanting to come in.
I agree with you, and I'm hopeful then, I take it that to be consistent, that will happen in any other developments right throughout the district.
Including bus contracts. Yeah. Convener, the whole issue of the effect the DEAR can have on Denny Town Centre, I think has been lost on Mr Goldie. There's a major commercial opportunity to create jobs and create services and create opportunities for people in Denny Town Centre now that the uncertainty over the DEAR has been removed. That's the point I was making. The fact that a major contributor to the congestion that is adversely affecting businesses in Denny Town Centre will be removed
Yes.
And that creates a major opportunity. And I would have thought the previous economic development spokesperson, who actually I believe was in post at the time when the change that Mrs Geisler has outlined was actually proposed.
Okay, I think we've clarified I think that was a decision that the administration clearly made with regard to the economic benefits of deer, and as well as the environmental benefits for those that live and work in Denny. So on that, I think I'm going to move on. The report's been approved. Okay. Item 13 is operational requirements. Stuart, you taking this one?
Yep, thanks, Convener. We are asking members to declare 3 assets surplus to operational requirements this morning. The first one is at Kirkland Drive in Denny, where we have a number of vacant lockups on site, and we're recommending sale on the open market. Second one is land at East Bridge Street in Falkirk, and again sale on the open market. And the third one is land at Laurie's Bar in Lauriston, where we are recommending negotiated sale of the council's interest as a ground landlord to the current tenant. Section 4 of the report provides more information on each of these 3 sites. Section 5 provides information in relation to the consultation that's been undertaken with the local members, and the maps and photographs appended at Appendix 1 provide some information for members on the 3 sites in the report. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Stuart. I'm aware that there's not really any concerns in relation to item 1 at Kirkland Drive in Denny or item 2 at East Bridge Street. However, there's still concerns with regard to Laurie's Bar at Mary Street in Lauriston. I therefore have a motion to put to the executive is that we agree the recommendation declaring sites 1 and 2 surplus to requirements, but in relation to item 3, the land at Laurie's Bar, Lauriston, negotiations should continue with a view to acquiring the tenant's interest, and if these are not successful, the current position should be maintained. Councillor Nimmo.
I'd be quite happy to second that, Convener, but I do have a couple of questions. Stuart, what was the district valuation for the Laurie's site?
$72,000.
Right, and there was also a difference of opinion with Laurie's. What price did they put on it?
They purchased for more than $72,000.
Okay. I'm happy to second, Convener.
Okay. Anyone? Any other further questions or comments? Councillor McHugh.
Obviously, I'm the local member as well as Alan for that area, and as we're looking at building council houses ourselves and looking at different areas, and with the comments that have been made over planning over the last month or so of building communities and looking at our communities and what our communities need, that's where I have concerns over the Laurie's site. What the impact would that be on the community of Lauriston? And that's why I would also welcome this motion.
Okay.
Is it a second in the motion?
Councillor Nimmo seconded the motion.
Sorry.
Yeah. Okay, everybody happy, content to accept? Thank you.